Hello, Sam. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Can you tell me a little bit about yourself and your work?
Yeah, my name is Sam Rapp. I perform as a dyslexic poet because I'm myself dyslexic. I'm also a part-time lawyer, which we'll get onto at some point during this conversation. I perform all around the UK as a dyslexic poet.
Lovely. Can you tell me a bit about your journey with dyslexia?
My work with dyslexia.
Your journey with dyslexia, you were diagnosed and things.
Oh yeah, well basically when I was younger, when I was a teenager, I really struggled in school to the point where I was bullied and was suicidal at the age of 14. I just thought I was really stupid and there must be something wrong with me, and I didn't really know what it was. I've also got a twin and she also struggled, but she's kind of not had the same experience that I've had, which is quite bizarre for twins. And it really damaged me, really affected me. And my father didn't understand, he was away a lot. And then at the age of 15, the school said, we're not entering you into any exams. So I left school at 15 with no qualifications and really just thought there's no future, no hope. What am I going to do with my life? And I just thought, well, I'd end up doing nothing. And I ended up on the dole, or unemployed for some time. Really didn't know what to do. I tried to go for jobs, and of course they want qualifications, GCSEs, A-levels, degree level. And I just thought, well, I couldn't even fill the information in properly. You know, I get things mixed up because that's obviously the point of dyslexia. You get everything mixed up. I can read a text and the words will be kind of jumping out at me, or they'd be upside down, and then I have to read the text again and again, and then it eventually goes in. And there was no recognition, and I just actually thought I was stupid and thick, because that's what I was told by, I suppose, my peers, even my own family. Just, oh well, you're too stupid. You know, you're a bit of a dummy. You can't really do much, and that's what the school said. And it was really from there that I just thought, I'm not really sure what I'm going to do. Ended up doing various jobs whilst unemployed. Periods of homelessness. Periods of despair, and it wasn't until I met this mad, nutty professor type chap just in the streets. If you could look at him, he looked like just a homeless guy with a bag and loads of papers, with a really scruffy coat. Looked like he needed a good iron. And he ended up being, I went on like this course and he was the tutor, and he recognised that I wasn't stupid, that I actually had dyslexia, and it was only at that point later on in my life that I realised that there was something now that I could focus on and know that I had a disability, and it wasn't because I was stupid or thick. And that's when I started to focus. And he supported me. He was very excellent at what he did. He was a law professor, and he got me into the law. And I said, well, I can't do this, you know, because I was always the person who would go into a class and think that they were the stupid one in the class. So I'd always sit at the back so I could hide like this. And he was the one who made me come to the front and say, no, let Sam speak. You know the answer, don't you, Sam? And it was like, yeah, I do actually. Because I actually had quite a good memory. So I could remember cases, and then he gave me extra time to write. And that's why I got into that field. And I always loved story writing ever since a child, even though I couldn't write very well. I always had stories in my head that I would tell people if I couldn't physically write it. And then I got a job as a lawyer but I was terribly bullied because I couldn't do things at a pace that they wanted me to do. And so I had 2 nervous breakdowns as a result. Yeah, ended up in a psychiatric hospital being treated because I just wanted to kill myself, and I had a breakdown at work. And all the good work that fantastic, I can't even remember his name now, but that fantastic bloke did when he first met me, had gone out the window. I'd gone back to square one, where I was like a 14-year-old kid again, wanting to kill myself. So I struggled terribly, had to go through various procedures at work for grievances that took 4 to 5 years to resolve, and have only really just come to fruition now after like 3 years of counselling, where I've actually developed a backbone. And as a result of work, I actually went to an expert and got diagnosed. And I always knew something was wrong. And funnily enough, when I lost my mother a few years ago, and I was going through her paperwork, and in one of her papers from when we were like at primary school age, she said, "I think Sam's got dyslexia." So, so it was even at that point. And as a result of being diagnosed, it was then that I could focus on, right, I've got this is fantastic. I know now why I've had all these years of issues, and now I'm going to make sure I shout about it and enhance it and make people aware that just because they have a disability, whether it's physical or hidden, you can do and be the best you can. You don't have to be on the dole or sleeping rough like I was, or going from squat to squat with my dog. Sorry, I had a dog and I had a black bag with my belongings in it, and I had a shopping trolley. But I can understand why people do feel that way, because they feel as though they're left on the scrap heap, because people either are ignorant or they just simply don't understand it. And that's why really the Dyslexic Poet was born, to shout out about it in a creative art form.
Lovely.
So that's really where it was born from and where it came from.
Okay, thank you for telling me all that. It's obviously been quite a rough journey for you at points.
Yes.
So obviously you chose to get into law, which is quite a reading and writing heavy occupation to go into. So what made you go into that, given your difficulties? Was it purely because of this sort of mentor figure you had?
It was his influence as well, but I actually got really, really angry with people's perceptions of me of just being so stupid. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If someone tells you something enough, you become it or you believe it. And I was becoming that person where I was a little mild, meek, oh, I can't do that, I'm too stupid. And it was his influence. And also I went for a job interview, and it was like in a supermarket, because I've been on the dole. I used to go to writing groups as well. And I've been on the dole, and I was only about 18. I had struggled filling in the form, and I told the bloke I'd been on the dole and I just needed a job. I was trying to go to night school and do all my studies. And he said, "Oh no, you need qualifications." And I said, "But I'm just applying for this job. You know, it wasn't anything spectacular. It was just to give me some money. I was living in a bedsit, and needed to pay rent. You know, I needed some income." And he turned around and said, "Don't bother, I'm not giving you the job," before he'd even interviewed me, after I'd said a few words. And he basically said, you'll never amount to anything. And I walked out of that interview with so many things running around my head. The stories had gone to the back of it, and anger had gone to the front of it. And it was, I'm going to show you that I am somebody. I do want to do something with my life, and I'm not going to be spoken to by anyone like that ever again. So it made me really angry, and that anger really made me go out and do something about it. And although I didn't have a diagnosis at that stage, I had this chap who was supporting me, and then I met lots of really lovely people that I'd never really experienced before, because all the people I'd met, which is an awful thing to say, had been very negative. Like all through my schooling, even my school peers would say, oh, well, you can't do that, Sam. You know, there'd always be a negative, never a positive. And I just thought, well, why can't I do it? I started questioning it after that very comment, those comments that chap made. He was only a young chap, you know, made those comments. And I decided that I'd meet all these positive people who really helped me and said, no, you can do this if you want to. You just got to do this and this. And they really pointed me in a direction, and they started to tell me about literature and what books to read and how to read them. And one of them was like a professor of maths at University of Sussex and stuff like that. You know, they were really bright people. And I thought, gosh, here I am standing with these people I never thought I'd meet ever in my life, because I was always in that mindset of they're better than me, because that's how I felt. And here I am standing together, actually on a demonstration. It was a demonstration about homelessness and various issues when I was 18, you know, all the stuff that you do. And he was on the demo, and I met loads of other people. And that really got me into law, because I remember the police being quite heavy-handed, and I thought, oh, are they allowed to do this? And I sort of questioned it, and they said, well, I'm not really sure. And I said, well, I think I'm going to go and research it. So I started researching about police powers and human rights and what you can and cannot do on protests and all the rest of it. And that's really what got my interest, that aspect of the work. How you can help people who may be a bit of the underdog, if you like. I don't really like the expression, but that kind of sums it up in a way, who want to go and protest in a democratic and exercise their democratic right, and yet sometimes they're not allowed to, and so I decided that I was going to do something about it. And I spoke to this professor chap. He said, oh yes, well, the police have to abide by this, this and this, and this is what the law says. And that's how I got into it. And when I first qualified, I actually did civil rights law.
Okay.
So that's how I got into it. But the people I worked with at that time were really lovely, and they never rushed me, and they just gave me a caseload that I could manage. And I had clients, and they didn't have an issue with my dyslexia or anything. And that was the first time that I felt like I was a human being, because before that I just felt like I was nothing. And that's how I got into it.
Okay, lovely.
I mean, I struggled obviously with the reading and writing.
Yeah.
But they gave me time, and obviously with a disability, whether it's hidden or physical, you have the Equality Act to prop you up and help you. Despite all the difficulties, I'm still practicing as a lawyer, but part-time, and I work from home.
Yeah.
But I came out of it strong, so hopefully an inspiration to others, I hope.
Yeah, I would like to think so. It's certainly been a very inspiring story that you're telling me so far. But the thing is, the adjustments and things and the support that is available, they're often not expensive fixes or difficult to implement. It's often very simple things, and I think it's just about everybody knowing what's available and stuff.
That's it. It's about educating and awareness, because my field is in crime, so I didn't really know much about the law. I'd obviously heard of the Employment Act and the Disability Act and all that, which is now changed to the Equality Act. But it wasn't until it started to really affect me that I started to really study it and learn the provisions and learn what a reasonable adjustment means, and also the various exemptions within the Act. That, you know, it's not a particularly strong Act. You know, it's not like something like saying to somebody, you must not steal. That's strong. You know, it's protected in statute. You can't take someone else's property. But when it comes to disability, it's a very weak Act. It's not a strong Act. It is in place. I'd rather it was in place, but it's not strong because there's various exemptions and various things you have to go through. Like I've had about 5 ATOS meetings. So I think you have to be polite and professional, but stick up for your rights and use the law to your advantage, not your disadvantage.
Yeah.
What I would say.
Okay. So I watched a wonderful piece by yourself on YouTube the other day called Rant. Is that about your journey, or is it about of everybody else as well, stories you've heard and things?
I suppose it's really about my own journey, but it can be incorporated into a wider spectrum, and about everybody else can, I hope, associate with that. The feedback I've had is that they felt like that when they're bullied at school, and you know, one of the lines in it from memory is like, you're a useless tool because you can't spell, or something like that, and I struggle to yell, and all that kind of stuff. And I think that kind of brings it home, because it's about people who are struggling at school and how they're perceived, and that was my journey through it. And also the reference to nature with the harpooned whale. You don't really, most people don't really want to see a harpooned whale, because it's the beauty of nature and the environment and looking after that. Whereas I sort of thought, well, I'm a person, I've been born, I bleed, I breathe, and I was being treated just like fodder, just like nothing, and that's exactly how the whale was being treated. So it was my kind of journey through that in that poem, is to shout out about, well, no, I'm not a useless tool. The whale's not a useless tool either, she's beautiful. And so, and you can say, well, so is everybody else with disabilities, we're all beautiful. And it was really a shout about that. And at the end, it's sort of like, although there's these negative images in the poem, it's a positive image at the end, because my disability enhances me. Can't you see that? You know, I'm in effect just me. I'm just me as a person, like you, or whoever. And that's really what it was about, to explain that. And I suppose it comes about from my experiences at school, but I would like to think it incorporates a lot of other things as well.
Okay, so it does obviously touch on several negative elements like bullying and feeling thick. You've obviously told me those are your personal experiences. How do you feel that you overcame those difficulties?
I think I overcame them by looking into myself and thinking, is this just me? Is this me? I'm just this stupid thing, a blob, if you like. And I just thought, no, I'm more than this. I'm worth more than this. And the negative comments that I've had throughout my life, to the point where I was very ill, has meant that actually I got a bit angry, and I thought, no, this is who I am, and take it or leave it. And I came out of it by becoming a dyslexic poet, to sort of say, this is who I am, these are my experiences, but this is what I am now. And I've come out of that. I've come out of it through friends who supported me, and in the creative world who've supported me and said, Sam, you're not this person that they're saying you are. And secondly, through intensive counselling, and really just saying to myself, I can do this, talking to myself inwardly, and writing my feelings down in poetry. I've actually reread some of my poems and thought, oh, that's quite dark. That's obviously how I was feeling then. And then I'll read another poem, like I've written something called The Amazing Dyslexics. And it's all about the positivity of being dyslexic or having a hidden disability. So it's called The Amazing Dyslexics because I think that people who have challenges in their life and they come through it are amazing, you know, because it shows that they're actually quite strong people. And so if anybody was to think, oh, I can't do this or I can't do that, I would always challenge them. In fact, I went to a talk recently for Positive About Dyslexia Association, which is like, I think they work closely with the British Dyslexia Association. And I went to a talk about this chap who was talking about his experiences, and he touched on everything I've been saying, absolutely everything. And I said, I could talk to you forever because you're saying everything I want to say. And then I did a poetry performance, and this 12-year-old child came up to me and she said, I feel like that at school. And I said, right, we're going to have a little chat. So I spoke to her and her mother together, and I said, don't you ever let anybody put you down. You are amazing. And I was telling her all about my experiences, all about my poetry and the amazing dyslexics, and whatever your situation, you are fantastic. And she actually left that talk. Her mother was really appreciative, and she left that talk really enlightened, and I hope that I've helped her. But it's really quite worrying that, you know, that the age of 12, there's still this stigma, and there's still this thing about, oh, well, I've got to go into a special class. And why has she got to go into a special class? She should be incorporated into everybody, you know, and in every class. Because we're not all going to be scientists and artists. We're going to be what we want to be. And that's really how I came out of it. And now, actually, I do some inspirational talking, because I did one for Crisis UK in London a couple of years ago, and a lot of the audience were dyslexic, and obviously they've been homeless as well. And coming out of that, quite a lot of people came up to me and said, oh, that's been my experience. You've really inspired me. So I hope that I can inspire people not to think they're downer, because I've been there and done it. You know, I've got the scars on my arms to prove it. But you can come out of it. And I think that's the inspiration I'd like to think from my experiences.
So what advice, you know, would you give to people that are facing difficulties at work or in life?
Advice, I think in work, I would certainly challenge any negativity. Keep every single piece of evidence possible, from discussions with somebody, write it up. If you have to handwrite it, if you have to put it in an audio, if you type it onto a computer, write it up. I spoke to Joe Blogs today at 10 o'clock. We discussed this, sign it and date it. I didn't think I'd ever do anything with my life because of my experiences. And if I hadn't have met that chap, I'd probably still be on the dole. I don't know. But, you know, if I hadn't have met somebody who actually helped me, and you have to think in yourself, yes, this person might be negative to me, but go and do what you want to do. In fact, I work sometimes in schools, and I'm working with a few children at the moment, and some of them are quite negative about what they want to do. Oh, I can't do that, I can't do that. Yes, you can, is my response. Yes, you can. You know, I know my limitations. I can't do maths because that's one of the aspects of dyslexia with dyscalculus, and the person who invented these words, dyscalculus and dyslexia, is something wrong. He's either got a good sense of humour or something, I don't know. But I can't even spell it, you know, let alone say it half the time. But if you have any issues, then obviously the first port of call is to contact your line managers and all the rest of it. But go and do what you want to do. You know, people know your limitations. Like I said, I'm absolutely rubbish at maths, but that was just my experience at school. I never learnt it properly because of all the issues I had. I'm sure that if somebody sat down with me and spent hours going through it, I'd get it. But you know, that opportunity has been lost, and I'm concentrating more on my reading and writing now. But if you want to be a mathematician, if you want to be the best you can be, if you want to be Prime Minister, go and do it. You know, those people were born, they were babies, they were toddlers, they were babes in arms, they were teenagers, and now they're doing what they want to do. You can do it, and that's the message. It's just, don't let anybody put you down. If you want to do something, do it, and certainly don't let a disability put you down or think you're less than anybody else, because you're not. And you just look at, I don't know if anybody's heard of him, but the Lost Voice, or the Lost Voice guy, is it? He won Britain's Got Talent. He's got a physical disability, he's got cerebral palsy, and he's amazing. He's absolutely amazing. He really shouts out about disability. And I think you don't, if you're not comfortable with saying I'm dyslexic or I've got a broken arm or whatever, you don't have to say it, but do what you want to do. That's my message. The message is you can do whatever you want to do. Go out and do it.
Lovely. Your poem that we talked about, Rant, does have that lovely statement that you've mentioned already. My disability enhances me, why can't they see? And it is such a true statement. We work with lots and lots of clients who can focus on their weaknesses and often don't focus enough on their strengths. They don't appreciate their strengths enough. So how do you think dyslexic individuals can make their strengths shine through?
I think it's just about challenging their own perceptions. As I said, I had lots of counselling. In fact, the poem about the amazing dyslexics says things about we are witty, we are funny, we don't need any apology or pity. And that really says it all, because we are great, we are witty, we are funny, we are human. We don't need any apology or pity. We don't need anything from anybody else. We are amazing. And in fact, I'm doing a fringe show in Edinburgh next year called the Amazing Dyslexic Poetry Show. Okay. So I will be doing that next year. I've got my accommodation sorted out and all the rest of it and registered. So that show really enhances what it is to be dyslexic, and also it sort of defines what it is. And I think it enhances everybody. My poem at the end, where you just quoted it, that is really quite powerful words, because it says, I've got this, I'm moving on with it, and I'm going out and I'm being the best I can. And I would say that to anybody. Just look at me, look at you, look at that person or that person. We are the same. We have different skills to bring to the table, and I would certainly say to be anybody, your disability certainly does enhance you, and go out and get what you want, and don't let it throw you back. Don't get down about it. Some people do it. I'm a very sensitive person, very emotive, I suppose, and it really did affect me when people were saying these awful things to me. And it's bound to affect anybody, but you can rise out of that. And if people need counselling, if they need assistance, go and get it, and get the support services you need, and work with people like the dyslexic associations or groups in your area or whatever, if you feel comfortable doing that. But do the best you can, and just be yourself. You are you.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's it.
That's lovely.
That's the message. Yeah, that's the message.
Awesome. Thank you very, very much for speaking to me this morning. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, it's been really lovely to speak to you. As I said, I'm more than happy to come and talk to you again, and meet people, and try and do my best to shout out. That's what I'm trying to do, shout out for people with dyslexia and hidden disabilities, and hopefully I can do that, by doing what I'm doing. So that's why I love it. This is what I love to do.
Yeah.
And if I could do it full time, I would, and have it, it pays some of the bills, but not all of them. But in the meantime, I have to, make ends meet, and like everybody else. But you can live your dreams, and you can do it. I never thought I'd have a book published. There you go. Never thought I'd have a book published, and now I'm writing my second one and doing a show. I never thought I'd do that. So I just hope that your clients and the people you work with will be inspired, and I hope that they don't ever feel negative, because it's all about positivity, and shout out for what you believe in and what you can do.